Good afternoon. Glad you could join us for our Strong and Sturdy podcast. Hope you're having a great day so far. Had a great weekend here for our Christmas party Sunday. Bus packed out. That we had about 43 or so on the bus and some visitors. And always wonderful to see what God can do and how God can use you to do something great. And I'm going to talk about that this morning. Judges chapter 6 verse 15. I've been looking into the story of Gideon. Man, what a wonderful story of a man who was nothing and God made him into something. But Judges chapter 6 verse 15, and he said unto him, O my Lord, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. My family is poor, and I am the least. Talking about Gideon. Gideon didn't have the greatest self-esteem. Gideon wasn't the richest person in the world. Gideon didn't have the greatest talents in the world. In fact, when the angel of the Lord came to find him, he was threshing wheat at the threshing floor and trying to hide it from the Midianites, because the Midianites had come in and just obliterated the land of Israel, and they had taken down all the wheat, all the food, and so he was hiding it from them so they wouldn't take it from him. And this is where the angel of the Lord, I sit there and I wonder if the angel of the Lord watched him for a little bit as he threshed wheat, looking over his shoulder, making sure nobody was looking. Nobody was looking for him to take that wheat. Yet we see here that God called Gideon because he was poor. God called Gideon because he was the least. He wasn't the greatest of the greatest of the greatest. Because that's where God can work miracles. That's where God can take somebody and change their life and make them into something that they never thought that they could be. And Gideon was that man. And eventually we find that Gideon, through the power of God, through God 100%, takes the Midianites for the ride of their life and takes them over, destroys them, kills their king. All for the glory and honor of God. God will only use those with whom he will get the glory. He's not going to do wonders and miracles and give his honor to somebody else. God, many times in the Bible, God is described as a jealous God. He's not going to give his glory to somebody else. He's not going to share it with another. And if he's going to get the glory, he's going to get 100% of the glory. And he's going to choose those that are through whom he's going to get the glory. And if you don't give him the glory, he's not going to work a miracle through you. God has to know that he's going to get every ounce of glory when it comes to the miracles that he does, when it comes to the places that he uses you. And 3 things this morning. Number 1, God uses the least. And God doesn't always use the richest person in the world. He uses the least when it comes to the attitude. And it doesn't mean he won't use rich people. But when it comes to the attitude that you're nothing. And you're nothing without God. There's not 1 ounce of glory that you can attribute to yourself. Everything that you have is because of God. And if we have to live our lives, and if God's going to use a person, he's going to have to use them with the understanding that you're not getting the glory, I'm getting the glory. And we live our lives in such a way that everything that we do is to give God glory, is to give God honor, give God the praise. And he'll use the least. He'll use the least talented. He'll use the one who doesn't have the best musical ability. He'll use the one who can't do things just exactly right. He'll use those people because he knows through them he can get the glory. He knows through them he can get the honor and the praise. Number 2, God uses those who give their all to him. Somebody who knows that they're the least, knows that they're not the greatest thing since sliced bread, but they understand that if they give their all to God, God will use it. That little boy, we read in the Gospels, that gave his lunch to Christ. It wasn't much, but God turned it into much. God turned it into 12 baskets left over. And my friend, if you give your life to God, you give your all to him, every single thing, every talent, whatever that may be, every breath that you have, every step that you walk, every thought that you have, you give everything to God, God will use it. God will use it. And understand that it's not you getting the glory. It's not you that's going to turn you into something. It's God that can take you and do wonderful things. Say, God, how could God use what I have? Give it to him and let's find out. Let's see what God does with just the least. God uses those, number 3, who lack. You know, Moses wasn't the greatest speaker in the world. And he said, I can't, I'm not the great speaker. And God took care of it. God used Moses. God used Noah. God used Joshua. God used Gideon here to do some wonderful thing for him. They just had to choose to give what they had to God. They had to choose and say, God, I want you to get the glory. I want you to get the praise. I want you to get all of the glory, all of the honor. I don't want any of it. And God takes that person and transforms their life and puts them in a position where they can do something great for him, for the glory and honor of God. And God pulls out the least. God will pull out the Jack Hyleses. God will pull out the D.L. Moody's. God will pull out the Charles Spurgeons and say, well, I don't have much to give. Just give me what you have, God says. He looked at Gideon and said, Gideon, just give me what you have. He's like, I'm the least. Doesn't matter to me. I'm the one who is the poor in my family. I don't have much money. God says, just give me what you have. God says, I'll use that. And he moves it down. And if you follow into chapter 7, he whittles down the army of Gideon to 300 people. And I can see Gideon standing there. How is this going to happen? And he says, I can see God saying, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. I'm going to get the glory. I'm going to get the honor. Gideon, just let me use you. And you will enjoy the path that I take you on. And the glory and the honor that God receives when we give our lives to him is what it's all about. And all about how much praise can our lives give to Savior. The souls that are led to Christ, the people that come on the bus, it's not about us. It's about him and how he can get the glory. And that's where God uses somebody mightily. And they give themselves to him. God, fill me. God, I'm not the best. I'm not the top of the pyramid. I am just the bottom. And God says, I'll use you. Let me see what I can do with you. Are you willing to let God do something with you? And it'll just be a wonderful thing. You can't think you're the end all. You can't think you're the best thing since the turn of the century. But you got to understand that if you want God to use you, he's going to have to get the glory. And he'll use you if you want him to use you. He'll use you if you give your all to him. He'll take it and turn it into something of value and for his glory and his honor. Well, I hope that's a blessing. Hope that's an encouragement to you today. If I can be a help to you, please let me know. Love to see you Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, and be there in your place and see what God has for you. Have a great day, and God bless.